I bootstrapped the company, and it was because I had sold my company-owned location to fund it. So it was a really, really stressful way of franchising. Like, don't ever do what I did. Just do what I say now. But I think that a lot of us make a very similar mistake when we franchise, in that we are so hell-bent focused on training the franchisee operationally versus helping them train them on how to run a business. My wrong assumption was that most of these people either A, had run a business, or when I learned that this was their first go around, I assumed they had some business skills that I quickly found that they didn't have. Financial literacy was one.
Yes.
Second was the emphasis on focusing on the right things, the marketing and sales, not sitting behind your desk where it's safe and not getting rejected when you're trying to, work deals and trying to find venues to have your business. And I think that's probably a common mistake, right? That franchisors make is
Beyond,
training on
I'd
the
say
wrong
it's
thing.
even mature brands make this mistake. Okay, our wheelhouse is operations, right? And that's what we know. We know what equipment, or how to make that sandwich, or how to do ABC. And our training's built for it. On our inventory, our supply chain, all hones in on it. But what we pulled back into and developed over the last couple of years is what we call the wheel of excellence. Okay, there's
Okay.
actually 4 quadrants that you have to help an owner be successful, and it's just what you spoke about. You know, if you start backwards, are they financially trained? Do they know what a P&L is? Worse, do they know what cash flow is? Because who cares what a P&L is? If you're not collecting the money that you're supposed to collect, how are you going to pay your team?
Right,
Um,
right.
and if you got to pay for your inventory up front, but you don't get paid 45 days later,
Oh,
you got to
yeah.
know finance. So that's the first quadrant. We really make sure that they understand, and it's not just starting from the business plan, it's getting into the day to day. Make sure you don't get into, too much debt at the wrong rate. So what is your, debt coverage ratio?
Mm-hmm.
And even employee labor, right? Make sure that your revenue per employee has the right ratio, which means, are you getting them are they productive for the money you're paying them? So those are the basics: cash flow management, debt coverage ratios, and then even if you're in a brick and mortar model, that lease and that lease term and those lease conditions can really haunt you day 1 to year 5. So making sure we really cover those bases. The next quadrant on the wheel, going the backwards way is what I call it, counterclockwise, is operations. That's the one we know well. What are the
Right.
things we need to do to operate, the equipment, the machinery, the business, the ABC. That one seems to be pretty sound, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move into the next really delicate one, which is sales, right? One of the key values is you as an owner are the chief salesperson. Whether you mean to be, want to be, you are, okay? And the
Agree.
more you embrace it and leverage it, networking, being in business environments, sponsoring school and community events, you will find phenomenal growth in your business by representing yourself as part of the brand, because that's the flavor you signed up for. So how do you do that? Do it well. And if the business is a high sales engine business, what is the sales training, sales management? Some
Mm-hmm.
people are good at selling, but they're not good at managing salespeople.
Yes.
So make sure, you know, don't just assume because they had a good corporate career that they actually know how to manage people, right? Don't make that assumption. Very
Right. And
dangerous.
don't promote a phenomenal salesperson to sales manager because they're great at selling.
2 different things.
We've all done that. Like, this
Yep.
guy's amazing. It'd be even better if we hire more of him and he manages them. And then he's miserable and we're miserable. And then
Yeah.
the relationship unnecessarily ends.
Yeah, we had this what I called a kind of the death loop, where we would find an owner that's not a salesperson, and
Uh-huh.
then he would hire a salesperson, and then 6 months later fire him, and then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And we're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Bad management, right? Oh, he didn't sell enough. Okay, well, what was his KPI? What do you mean KPI? Like, well, how many calls was he supposed to make? How many
Right.
leads did he have? all of a sudden we unraveled that we need to teach them how to be better managers. And whether it's sales or any area of the business, making sure you have good managers is key. But sales is the third quadrant. And then the fourth one is marketing. More and more, our entrepreneurs have to take some portion of responsibility for marketing. Okay, even the best marketing fund is not going to be hyper local until the owner invests something into it. So take pictures of your great work, get great customer testimonials, blog a few things, post a few pictures, be active on social media. The more you blend in with the headquarters marketing, the more effective it'll be. So we've now got I would say our training in those four quadrants, if that makes sense. But it's not just training now. Now it's our ongoing, what you call coaching and field support. So those, we measure those now, right? Are you healthy, and where are you not? Okay, so if you're unhealthy and financial, we fix that before we even. Why spend more money in marketing if you don't know
Right.
if you're balancing the books? Okay, and then we go to operations. If you're not good in operations, again, why are we selling more to make more people unhappy? So fix it, then invest in sales, then invest in marketing. And so that's really helped our team, go to, what we call the wheel of excellence, right? So we want every center to be excellent. All four of those quadrants has got to light up green, okay? And what are the 2-3 KPIs you want in each quadrant for it to be green, right? Depending on the business, it changes a little bit, but in marketing, we want organic and paid to be hitting the mark, right? In
Right.
sales, we want, to see that you're converting. If you're answering the phone, we want to see that those calls are being converted, right? And then in operations, we want net promoter scores. If customers aren't saying good things about you, then you might not be
Heck yeah.
delivering good things. And then financially, are you paying yourself what you wanted to pay yourself? And are you paying your people what they should be paid, right?
Right.
It's really, really simple. But measuring that makes the hugest difference. And then you coach.
Yeah, and doing something with that information. I had this mentor who lovingly said that KPIs are nothing more than the autopsy. The patient's already dead. So if you got these KPIs, but haven't done anything with it ahead of time, and what
Yeah.
are you measuring? It's useless. You have to have a dashboard that you're actively working from.
Absolutely. Lead and lag measures. I love using the weight analogy because every one of us relates to this. I don't care how good looking you are. Everybody deals with the scale at some point in their life, right? But the
Right.
scale is the lag measure. That's the output. That's after whatever you did, has been done. The inputs are what change the output, right? Did you work out? Did you eat the lean meats? Did you skip that extra, beer? Whatever it is, measure the inputs, and the outputs will happen. We know this, right? So weight management is my best analogy for my owners to say, please focus on the inputs. Are you doing what you're supposed to do every day? Did you make your 10 phone calls? Did you follow up with your customers? Did you ask for a referral? Did you greet properly on the phone? Did you do the fundamentals? And
Right.
if you do the fundamentals, the output will take care of itself. I promise you, if you follow our program and just check it off every day, consistent, consistent, you'll find the scale will start losing weight.
Right. Right. You're doing the right things.
Yeah, and to your point, it's hard as an emerging franchise, I think, to figure out how to measure those. But putting that into play, even if it's a spreadsheet to begin with, even if it's a phone call to ask the right question, does help an owner focus on the things that matter, right? It's building a habit takes time, right? And so the more you can check in on them, remind them that they need to do that thing, reward them or attaboy them when they do it, the sooner it will become a habit, and then they are starting the flywheel, right? Then they're
Yeah.
starting to generate a business that's going to give you the results you want to see.
That's a good point. I do want to be gentle and forgiving to emerging franchisors that don't necessarily know what some of those KPIs might be, because quite honestly, from the time you franchise your company and you have those beautiful operations manuals, lined up on your bookshelf behind you, and you have all your sales brochures, you are a completely different company from the time you left that consultant to the time you have now awarded 5, 10 franchises. And the things you thought were important to measure and the activities that really were important could be completely different. So wouldn't you agree, like pivoting and being so in tune with what activities are really most important, like you said, in part of that flywheel, to making sure that they're making money and getting the right numbers? We've got to make sure we're measuring the right things and just not measuring stuff for sake of measuring.
Absolutely. Make sure they're measurable, right? I could say a lot of great things that you can't measure. So one,
Right.
can I actually measure it? Okay. And then is what I'm measuring meaningful? And then the last one is keep it simple. Not every owner wants to juggle another 10,000 data points, right? So 2 or 3 KPIs per quadrant, super simple. I mean, in today's workplace with the technology and data and AI we have available, a lot of times it's easier than you think, right?
Yep.
If you're running a website, you already have the data. How many eyeballs do you get? You should know what is the minimum eyeballs, and then what are the clicks I need from those eyeballs, whether it's buying something or setting up an appointment or just whatever your call to action is. You should know those two, and what is the minimum viable to run a business, right? And if it's not there, then how do we fix it, right? Do I need to change, tweak this, right? So one is that I call it the patient, right, diagnostic, right? I'm just going to tell you if you're healthy, then we're going to write a prescription, right? So the first thing is are you reasonably healthy with these 2 KPIs per quadrant? Great, let's move on to something else. Hey, no, this looks a little yellow, this looks a little red. Then you work on the prescription, right? So the prescription needs to be the I would say the coaching that is very, very delicate, right? So that's where you do a little bit more, let's say, blood work and really get down to the root of the problem. Same with sales, right? I mean, it should be a pretty simple number of we need to close this many new customers a month. That's the output. What's the input? Okay, how many phone calls do you need to make, or how many appointments you need to set, or how many people need to walk in the door, or how many drives do you need to make? Simple KPIs, right? And it needs to be put somewhere, even if they're required to fill it into a spreadsheet once a week, once a day.
Doesn't matter how.
Yeah, just keep. But if it's what I've found is if I can input it in 10 minutes or less, I can check the status on it in 10 minutes or less, then I will probably do it. If this becomes an exercise where I got to spend an hour finding data and crunching them and doing them, it's probably you didn't keep it simple enough. So that's a
great
really
lesson. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.